Okay, welcome back to the Waiting Well podcast. This week, we're going to dive into a very honest and heartfelt reflection on our fertility journey. I kind of want to tackle the topic of what I would have done differently if I had the wisdom and perspective that I have now, because I do get DMs of people asking what should I do? I'm looking at this, or this is an option. What do you think? And so before I dive in, I do want to just say that I don't have the answers for what you and your spouse should do in your fertility journey. And I do believe with my whole heart that God has used every step of my journey, even the ones that, at times felt confusing, felt maybe a little bit rushed or misdirected. He is a redeemer, and same thing with your situation. There's nothing, like we talked about last week, there's nothing outside of his sovereignty and his control. Nothing is wasted in his hands. So I do believe that each of us has to go through this in our own ways and wrestle it out with God directly. But I believe there's also power in sharing what we've learned, and you do have so much more wisdom in hindsight. So I want to share that with you guys and what we've learned, coming behind us, and for those that are navigating questions that we navigated. So if this episode can help even one of you navigate your path a little bit with more peace, clarity, or even just wholeness, it's definitely worth sharing. So let's dive in. Hey friends, welcome to the Waiting Well podcast. I am your host, Courtney Dunker, and you are here because your journey to motherhood has not looked the way that you always imagined. It has held heartbreak, loneliness, and questions like, why me, God? I'm here to remind you that you do not have to walk this road alone. And here we can wait well together. Each week, I will share faith-based encouragement from my own infertility journey, provide information from guest experts on navigating infertility and conceiving, powerful testimonies, and top tips on stewarding your health and emotional well-being through this demanding journey. So if you are ready to take back control of your life, find peace with God, join the in-between spaces, and thrive in your waiting season, then meet me at the well, girl. Grab that warm chocolate chip cookie, a little bit of unicorn juice or iced coffee. We've got some intentional growth to do. Let's get it. I feel like I need to give some kind of little caveat here. So I am absolutely a lot more crunchy now than I was when we first started trying to conceive. I don't even know if the word crunchy was around back then, and I use that a little bit loosely. I'm definitely have my limits of how crunchy I am, but by crunchy, I truly mean just holistic. Especially now being a mom, I'm very root cause focused, and I'm more let's wait and see what's going on here. I truly care about non-toxic living. I think I've made great strides for our family and for myself, especially looking at the way that I was raised. I feel like I have created so much awareness around how to live our lives as a family in a healthy way. So I do believe that I am really intentional about how we eat, how we live, and letting our bodies do what God designed them to do, essentially with little interference as possible. But it wasn't always this way. Back then, I did trust the medical system fully. I think 2020 changed a lot of things for many of us. And it's okay if we do disagree on medical needs and necessities and intervention. That's totally fine. I am just here to kind of share what I would have done differently. Now with the knowledge that I have today, I definitely did not think twice about what I was putting in my body or on my body at the time. I honestly was just focused on living. I wanted to look good back then because I was a health and fitness coach. That was my main job. That was my full-time job. But I also wanted to get pregnant. And I felt like I was kind of going the Western route, just taking the next step because that was all the options I knew. I didn't have friends that were going through this with me. I didn't have resources. Social media was not I think I was one of the few people talking about her infertility journey. This was 7, Highland is 3. And then it took us 6 years. So this is almost 9 years ago that we had started sharing that we were struggling to conceive. And I didn't know anybody who was sharing anything like this. And I was sharing it on Instagram. So there wasn't this hodgepodge of resources or podcasts or whatever, people talking about it. And there honestly wasn't a big holistic movement as far as health and wellness was concerned. It wasn't as popular as it is now. I was just kind of honestly focused on like who can help me and taking those steps. So there's definitely a time and a place for medical intervention. I believe that the first investment I would have made would have been something different than what it was. So if I could go back, I probably would have spent money, time, and energy first on getting like my heart in the right place. Infertility definitely has a way of like kicking up this dust storm in your soul, and you start revealing things that you didn't even know were buried, like old lies or fears, unmet grief, maybe even traumas from the past that you never really worked through with the Lord. Maybe you start like questioning things about God and you feel like it's shaky at best. Like I said, I didn't really have resources to tackle that, but I definitely kind of looked over what was happening in my heart and was just focused on like fix it mode without really ever sitting with God and asking him like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to show me in this season? Like I did that periodically, but I don't know, there was an aspect of me just focused on the end result. Like I just wanted to be a mom. I just wanted to get there. And then we could like work through all of the issues after. But now, I know that the wait is truly a refining fire. And I wish I had let it do its work in my heart before I started kind of chasing those solutions. So if I could do it again, I probably would have slowed down and sought out spiritual mentorship and invested in Christian counseling, in soul care coaching, or spent more time in God's word, learning, who he really is and taking time to learn how to grow through the process on a spiritual level. And that's essentially why I decided to step in and fill this gap that I noticed was there through the Waiting Well framework, because there was all these options, like the Western side of medicated cycles, IUIs, IVF, whatnot. Then now there's become this wave movement of holistic, okay, let's look at what you eat. Let's look at your blood panels, like blah, 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 which is amazing. But there isn't this component of, let's look at your heart. Let's see where your heart is at, because stress, pain, suffering, all of that definitely does impact optimal fertility. So there is that side of it. And if you fix the physical, you do get pregnant, but your heart is in pieces because of what has taken place, or your faith, even worse, your faith is shattered because you never worked through the theology and the understanding, the disillusions you had about God, then the physical side doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like you are not in you're in preparation to become a mother. And if your faith is torn, that needs to come first. So the Waiting Well framework is a great place to start. That's probably where I would have invested if I had to start all over. I would have started there first. Second, the medical side of things, the medical path. Again, everything has led me, like I have Highland through IVF. We have Praise through natural conception. We went through medicated cycles. We did IUIs. Like we've been through it all. But I probably would have gone down the path of obviously I still would have gone to my normal, OB. I think that's valuable because they can do some preliminary stuff. So I would have done that all through insurance and everything, because a lot of holistic, naturopathic doctors are not covered under insurance. So I would have still done the preliminary stuff of like, okay, it's been a year. They always, challenge you unless you have like other underlying issues. Generally, when you start trying to conceive, they want you to wait at least a year of trying before you see, your OB or a reproductive endocrinologist. So I would do the full workup, the labs, the ultrasounds, the semen analysis. I would do all of that. And in my case, everything in that category came back normal or unexplained. And so at that point, we jumped right into a treatment plan. Like they gave me medication. We went back overseas. I did a medicated cycle a couple times. Like this male OB was like walking me through when to have sex on what days of my cycle. And it was just honestly like, I don't know. It just wasn't it was not the right situation. But it was just like kind of awkward because I'm like, okay, it's not like we're doing it wrong. It's a little awkward. But anyway, he was like, okay, here's the game plan. Here's the medication, and then move forward. But honestly, I wish that I wouldn't have just gone right into a medicated cycle. I wish I would have asked more questions and said, okay, if we can't, because after we did the medicated cycle, then they wanted to refer me out to a specialist, which would be reproductive endocrinologist. And So for me, I would have wanted to take a pause here and be like, okay, he's just, again, it's the same thing that happened to me when I was like 15 and my cycle was terrible. I was getting so sick. I was vomiting. I was passing out. Like my cycle was terrible in my teen years, and it still was even into adulthood. And they put me on birth control. And that was, I know a lot of girls have the same story as me in that capacity, but I wish I would have known to ask more questions or to not just throw medication at things. So I probably would stop here and be like, okay, everything looks fine, but clearly it's not fine. It's not working. So now I'm going to take a pause, take a beat, and before I throw medication into my body, I'm going to take a second to go deeper. And this is where I probably would have made the transition to talk to a naturopathic doctor and speak with someone who was like specifically a fertility, holistic naturopathic doctor who is going to do, a much deeper dive on my labs and my panels and try to look for root causes of like unexplained is not enough. And there is some kind of explanation. Your hormones could be out of balance. It could be whatever it is, but have basically like a package that I did do when we had praise. I was working with a naturopathic doctor, Dr. Zen. I've done an episode with her. I'll link that down below so you can go look at that. But I probably would have done that at this point and invested that money. It was very expensive. And I don't know that we would have had the money to do it at that time. But if you have the money to invest in anything, because like IVF, you pay out of pocket. It's not like some of our insurance covered part of it, but not all of it. There was still, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000 that we were responsible for. That's a lot of money. So why not go the path of the holistic approach to be like, okay, before we have to go through A through Z steps, because none of this is working. Like if I look back at my history, none of it worked. The medicated cycles, the IUIs we paid for, then the IVF, right? Like the IVF did work for Highland, but our cycle was not that successful because we had 16 eggs that led to one normal embryo, one embryo at all. They didn't even have any other embryos. So I wish I would have done that next. Get my heart right, waiting well framework. Next step, we're going to look at the physical and we're going to go to someone who can do more lab work and who's not okay with just saying to unexplained infertility, your best chance is IVF. Because essentially that's what doctors were saying. They've told me I had the option to do IUI, and that's what we ended up doing 2 times. That was not successful. And then I saw another IVF doctor and he was like, I don't even know why they recommended that, because based off of the blood work and the statistics that I'm looking at right now, like your chances of conceiving on that were like less than 4% or something like that. So I guess the way that I see it is like, we cannot forget that these are not our best friends who just want to see us get pregnant. These, the medical field. There is a lot of money to be earned. This is their job. And I'm not saying they're lying about the situation, but it's literally their job to do IVF rounds. It's literally their job to do IUI. And IVF is going to be the most bang for your buck and the quickest way I guess the most sure way that the doctors can have the most control to get you to the end result. So they're thinking okay, you want a baby. This is going to be, the easiest path to get there. Let's do this. And the reason I have that perspective is because I felt like IVF was pushed on us from like year 2 of trying. And I get it. Like I understand that they were just trying to help me get to the end destination. But I wasn't at peace with IVF for years. Basically until our 5th or 6th year of trying, I was like, okay, I finally feel like the Lord had released me from that. I wish that someone would have said, there's actually an alternative route and you can go get more blood work and you can have someone look at it from a hormonal and, blah, 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 all these different lenses that Dr. Zen had looked at it. I wish I would have had that because she was able to make some adjustments. And I don't know if it was just the Lord's timing, but we conceived when we made those adjustments. So I don't know, like you tell me. We had never conceived in the 6 years prior. Like there's that question mark there. So that's what I probably would have done second step. Third step, if, all of that, the cool thing about, working with Dr. Zen was that like she wasn't opposed to doing IVF or IUI or whatever. She looks at the whole picture. She's going to look much more detailed and she's not looking at it from a lens of I am invested in you doing IVF because that's what I do. She doesn't do that. So that's the cool thing is like, she's kind of like the unbiased, like, I don't know, in between neutral party who's like, let me look at all the facts and let me help you create a strategy. And we're not going to go right to the most expensive, aggressive thing. We're going to take this bit by bit and we're going to figure out what is best based off of the whole picture. And I'm going to look deeper than what other people are looking at. And she shared things with us about my blood work and my hormones and all that we'd never heard. We'd never heard that I was low in this and high in that and this was out of balance. Like, not one time did someone ever say that to me. All these medical appointments, all those years of working together, all these failed attempts, no one had ever said that there was something going on that we could have, take CoQ10. I think she had me on some other things. So it's like, I just look at that and I'm like, oh man, like that's a little bit hard for me because why? Like, why was that not addressed? So it makes you think. I think the third step would have been, okay, if she is saying, because she did say in our initial call, there could be a point, I'm forgetting what they called it, but basically my ovarian reserve was on the lower end. And that's not like complete indicative of like being able to have eggs ovulating. But she did say it was a little bit, on the lower end. So she was saying like, hey, in 6 months, if we are trying actively and you're not conceiving, now we might want to go back to IVF. So this was for our second. And I was like, I really don't want to do IVF again. Like it did break havoc on my body and it was really hard. And postpartum, I do feel like I hemorrhaged a lot because of the medications. And I don't know, I just feel like it wasn't the healthiest situation for me, despite the fact that we did get Highland, which is such a blessing. I'll never take that for granted. I'm so, so grateful for the whole team that helped us get there because I have her. But I didn't want to go through it again if I didn't have to. So she did say, and that's the thing, like, we will revisit this. We will make an educated decision if you do need IVF because you do want to have a baby. So that was kind of like interesting to me is that she works hand in hand. Like if you do need to go that path, like I have several clients that I'm working with now who are like, hey, our literal only chance is IVF because there's something going on with my body. There's something with his body. The only way to get the two to connect would be actually the IVF process. So there are certain circumstances where it is not unexplained infertility and IVF is your only solution. And she gets to work alongside that where she is like, hey, I'm going deeper and I've got this whole picture that I'm seeing and I'm aligning your strategy to the IVF process. So that was really powerful because if I would have gone through that and been like, okay, 6 months of trying, we didn't conceive. Okay, now we're adding in the second layer, but the primary focus is the holistic route. And then the second layer would be like the IUI, the IVF, the actual support on a medical, on the medical side. So that's kind of how I would have done things differently. And I would have honestly been focused on changing out our lifestyle, like non-toxic things. I heard about that a lot, but I didn't really take it seriously until maybe the last like 2 years of the 6 years that we were trying. I feel like I kind of was just like, heck, it's not really affecting us that much. And there was some things that I like habits that I was doing and stuff that I feel like, okay, that wasn't like some supplements I was taking were probably not the best supplements to be taking if I was trying to conceive because I was also trying to maintain this weight loss that I had. It was kind of crazy. So, and it wasn't like crazy supplements. It was just basically like high caffeine, like stimulants. So it's like, that's probably not the best. So looking into the ingredients and actually caring about what I'm putting in my body because everything can play a factor in conceiving. So I would have just looked deeper, that would have gone deeper into gut health, hormone balance over time, not just the snapshots that were provided. Again, nutrient deficiencies, inflammation, autoimmune markers, detox pathways. That would have been the working with Dr. Zen aspect, kind of asking why my body isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing instead of assuming that it just can't. And then would have stepped into more of the medical side with an education. So like when I had those meetings and appointments with the clinic, I came from a place of like, I actually understood where my body was at and what it was trying to tell me. And so I could have educated conversations instead of just like, yeah, sure, if that's what you think I should do, let's do it. So a part of just the education piece, I think, is invaluable to invest in. And doing it for both of you. Like if things are going well on your side, like get him the panel, get his blood work, everything matters. And lastly, I just wish I would have gotten a mentor of some kind who had been through this before me, who actually understood this journey, because I don't think I really understood, like I mentioned at the beginning, how deeply this would affect my view of God, or just the ways, the like ups and downs that I would have gone through, just waiting month after month, just feeling like God was silent or absent. I didn't know how to navigate that kind of spiritual disappointment, because it was the first like really just heavy thing that I had gone through that was out of my control, or that wasn't going away. It was like 6 years of going through it. So I do see things differently now. And now I know that withholding is not his rejection. It's often his protection. And I've come to believe that delay wasn't to punish me, it was to prepare me. So really, I would have done those physical components of it, and I would have taken the intention to say, okay, Lord, like you're not just writing a story of motherhood, you're writing a story of healing, of trust, surrender, a new kind of faith. If I had understand that now, I would have maybe flourished for longer than, because I did eventually get there, but I wish I would have gotten there sooner so that I didn't have so many years of just kind of like suffering in my grief, if you will. So if you're listening and you're starting this journey, or maybe you're like in the thick of it, I just want you to know these things. Don't skip over your heart to chase results. Wholeness matters just as much as answers. It's okay to explore holistic health before you invest thousands in treatment. And it's okay if your doctor doesn't agree with that. God is more concerned with who you're becoming in the wait than how quickly it ends. And above all, you are not alone. There's wisdom for your next step. There's healing available, and there's peace even here. One of the cool things about the Waiting Well framework, we go into a module on like how to hear God's voice, because that can be a question, and a part of this is like, how do I know that it's him who's telling me to not do something or to do something? Like I've mentioned several times, I believe that God was closing the door or telling us to wait on IVF for years. And then I finally felt the go ahead. So we dive into that. Like, how can we know, according to scripture, when it's God telling us something or when it's just us kind of making it up in our head? We dive into that, and I love that. So if you want information on how to apply, you can hit the show notes. There's information there. Thank you for letting me share this with you today. If it resonated with you, I would love for you to take a minute and actually write a review for us. There is a link down below, or share it with a friend who might be walking through infertility as well. And then again, you have the Waiting Well framework link below. I would love to support you on a more personal note. And I hope you guys have a great week. I am so glad that you chose to meet me at the well today. If this episode inspired you, changed you, or blessed you in some way, I would love for you to do one of two things. First, head to Apple Podcasts at that link below and leave a review. And second, screenshot this episode and share it in your stories, tagging me at Sown with Strength, or text it on over to a friend that this episode might bless. These are the number one ways to thank me. I am truly so grateful to be building out this community, and I cannot wait to see you on the next episode. Until then, go get a workout done for me, and I will see you right back here in the Waiting Well podcast.